The life of an entrepreneur is one of high pressure. And if you're not careful, you keep pushing from one height to one height, trying to climb one hill after the other. And then you get to the top of that hill only to realize that the hill ahead of you is actually a bit taller, a bit more difficult, steeper to put that word, and then you burn out. Today, we're going to be talking about stress, why the entrepreneur should not burn out. This particular topic is a bit interesting for me because, first of all, yes, I'm a salesperson. I work within the real estate industry, but my primary discipline in school was medicine and surgery. So, when I talk about health-related stuff, it tends to get me lighted up a bit because it takes me back to when I was in medical school. But what I would say as I begin to, every entrepreneur, you need to actually understand the concept of stress and then why you should not burn out. Because at the end of the day, what you're exchanging to create the empire you want to create is your energy. And energy is what you translate into every other thing you do. The energy to your intellectual energy, your physical energy. You need all these energies if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur. And that is why you will not burn out. And don't be like, don't make sure that this quote does not apply to you, that you spend your energy to get wealth, or to get your health to get wealth, and then you spend the wealth to get back your health. That is futility at the highest level. So let's quickly dive into what stress. What exactly is stress by definition? Stress, if I were to ask, people would say stress is when something is stressing you, or when something is difficult, or that's not stress. Stress is actually your response or your reaction to real and perceived stressor in the environment. So if you were to, let me use a very stark example. If you were to be on a flight and the turbulence is terrible, now for the guy that's his first flight, that is a lot of stressor coming to him, because he feels, we're gonna die, the plane is gonna crash, and so on and so forth. But for the pilot, it might be like, this is turbulence, we just need to navigate around it. For the more express traveler, they're looking, I've experienced this kind of thing before, hopefully things should. But if you look at the three people, the one that is mostly stressed, or that is stressed out of the three, is the guy who's traveling for the first time. So if you look at it, you can the same stimulus, but the perception, the pilot might even be might just be cool laughing because of the noise that he's hearing in the cabin, because he knows that they're actually going to navigate this particular turbulence. So really, it is not the stimulus that is the problem, it is our response. Our response to perceived or real issues is what stress is all about. Now, if you look at that, there are two components to stress when we define stress. First of all is our response, but the most important part is whether real or perceived. What this tells us is that sometimes if you look at the spectrum, you said, your response to real or perceived stimulus, what it means is that your response is voluntary. You can choose how to react to stressors. You can choose how to react to the things that you would encounter, and you would encounter a lot of things that are not necessarily outside of your control. The one that is within your control is how you want to react to those things, no matter what it is. And I'm not saying that everything that will cause stress in your life is not bad. There are some really very bad scenarios. I've been under a lot of pressure too. There are times that the businesses we run, or the business we run, is running into significant headwinds. We have a lot of debt, and you're looking at this, will this thing shut down? And you have a choice. You can decide, I am going to run away, or I am going to allow this pressure to get to me, and then my blood pressure goes up, my health is destroyed, and then my intellect, the ability to look at what the solution is clouded by the pressure that I feel. Or you can say, yes, what is the problem? The problem is that we have obligations that we need to meet. But does it mean your business is going to shut down? Not necessarily. Does it mean that you're going to be jailed? Not necessarily. What it just means is what it is. There are a lot of principles of mine, but I'm going to actually define and walk around stress from what you call the implication framework. The implication framework simply teaches us that when you look at a particular stressor, you don't look at it from the face value. You ask yourself, what does this mean? Let me use the example of, because I'm talking to entrepreneurs now, that you have obligation. Maybe you took a loan and things went bad. I'm talking from personal experience now. Now, what exactly is the scenario? Let's define it in actual time. Actual time means there are payments I need to make that I may not be able to make. There are monies that I owe. Now, if you look at it, an average person will use the implication framework and ask themselves, what is the implication of this one? The implication is that your creditors might come in and shut your business. They might take your asset. They might report you to your FCC. They might sue you to court. Those are the implications, but they are not necessarily what it is. The scenario itself is, yes, I have obligation to meet that is looking like I might not be able to. But this is where the problem lies. The guy who has looked at the implication framework takes it and say, oh, creditors are coming after me. I'm going to go to jail. They will shut down my business. They will take all my assets. My wife will leave me. My girlfriend will run away, and so on and so forth. And they take this scenario and use it and interpret it, imbibe that, and use it to define the realities of their action. And those are two separate things. You might look at it and say, okay, this is the implication I think, but actually, maybe you are owing 1 billion naira. And then you look at the person, look, I know I'm owing you 1 billion. I cannot pay now. Can you give me 3 years to structure the payment? And the person looks at it and says, I like the fact that you even came to me. You want to have a conversation with me. I would support you because I don't want you to fail. And that is a scenario that has happened to me. So if I had acted on the basis of all the implications that are here and did not say, okay, the issue is I have obligations that I may not be able to meet, and then say, what can I do? Because this is an obligation I may not be able to meet. And then I said, let me have a conversation with this person. Can I stretch it further? Can I restructure it? And he said, oh, look, you can do that. And then we're beginning to do that and beginning to exit the debt. You can keep looking at those scenarios and asking, am I thinking from the implication framework, or am I looking at the incidents as what it is? These and defining it very. So the first step in managing stress is actually to, there are two sides, two ways to manage. There are two ways. The psychological approach or psychological stress management, that's under the implication framework. The second one is the physical route to managing stress. So under psychology, the first thing is to redefine the stressor in your life for what it is. Instead of looking at it from the implication side of things, you are redefining it to what it is exactly. The second thing is knowledge. Knowledge is part of the psychological way to manage stress. Your level of stress is inversely proportional to your level of knowledge. This is what I mean. Now, if you look at it, for some of us that are listening to me, if you see someone who is bleeding heavily and then there's blood splash all over this table where I'm seated, you end up, you can nearly collapse. Your blood pressure can go up. You can start running away from that direction. But for the guy who is knowledgeable about healthcare, who is a doctor, who is a surgeon, that blood means nothing. He looks at it and says, this is what we can do. So your level of stress is inversely proportional to the level of knowledge you have about the scenarios of your life. So if you know more, your stress, goes down. And, so what do you need to do? If you want your stress level to go down concerning any situation, the first thing you should do is to ask yourself, what can I learn about this scenario, this challenge? Because it's actually going to reduce the level of stress you have. So every time you're under pressure, you first of all need to define the problem in practical time rather than from the implication framework. Once you define that, you now need to ask yourself, what do I need to do who do I need to meet? What do I need to learn for me to solve this problem? Because that will solve. Those are the two areas under the psychological approach to managing stress. The physical approach is a bit more simple because stress in itself is a scientific chemical reaction, really. What happens in stress is, on a short term, adrenaline is released into your body, your heart beat faster, your pulse is increased, there's constriction of blood vessels, and then the blood pressure goes up because the body is preparing you to either fight or to run. That is the natural stress reaction that we have. Now, what it does is, if it's short term, it really doesn't matter that much because it's short term, your body restores back. But when you begin to have stressors continually, it means that your body is always at a heightened state of existence. Your blood pressure is higher, your pulse rate is always higher, your heart rate is higher, all the stress hormones are pumped into your body. And these things are not sustainable if they continue for a long time. So you need to actually be able to manage that on the physical level. So what do you do? What are the things you can do on the physical level? One of the first thing and the easiest thing to do when you have an environment where that is giving you a bit of pressure is to leave the environment where the pressure is. Take a break. Most people never learn that. If you are within an environment that's providing that pressure, you want to take, if you're an entrepreneur, for example, can you take 1 day off, 2 days off, or take a vacation as the case may be? The second thing is you need to actually tone your muscle, tone your heart, tone your blood, your circulation system by doing exercises. So making regular exercise part of your existence actually will help to strengthen your body, will help to strengthen your system to be able to cope with the pressure of that one. And then the other thing is self-talk, and this helps. Most people underestimate the power and the ability in talking to yourself. So if you understand that there's pressure, if you understand that this thing's going to happen, and maybe you're a bit overwhelmed and you're beginning to take that stress management approach for the interpretation from the implication framework, you want to keep talking to yourself, I'm going to survive this, everything is going to be okay. You keep talking to yourself. One of the things that has been proven right is what we hear sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, what we hear actually can transform our life. Come to think of it, if you are listening to me today, you are a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, you actually got into school, you went into school, year 1, year 2, you kept listening to what your lecturers were teaching you, and then 4 years later, you just suddenly discover that you are now a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer 5 or 6 years later. What happened between the time you came in 100 level and the time you graduated? It is what you heard that made you from just a regular person who just finished secondary school, and then you suddenly can call yourself a doctor. It's about the power of the spoken words. These are what I was spoken to by the other people. What in their words you could speak to yourself, you could keep telling yourself, and then that convinces your mind to believe in that, and then you go in the strength of what was said. Sure, those are some of the physical elements. I said exercise, I said self-talk, and then there's some short-term techniques that people also encourage to bring down the symptoms that is associated with stress. Maybe your heart rate is going up, your blood pressure is going up, your breathing is faster, so on and so forth. So what are those things you can do? You can actually, one of the tactics that I know is to breath control. You want to just take, somebody has panic attack, anxiety attack, say, okay, take a deep breath, hold it a bit, and then release it. A deep breath, hold it a bit, and then release it. The other short-term technique that is also encouraged is before you respond, you want to actually take a pause and say why, and ask yourself the why question, which is part of speaking to yourself. The why question means that why is my heart rate high? Why is my blood pressure high? Why am I feeling agitated? Why am I feeling anxious? If you can ask 5 levels of why, it actually would help to ease part of that tension. This is what I would encourage you to do at every point in time. Understand the definitions of whatever is facing you and define it in a very objective term, because you would always have a difficult scenario that you will encounter in the course of your transaction, in the course of your business. I hope you learn from this. I hope what I've mentioned would help you, so that when you face those scenarios, you can quickly call on this. If this session has been of value to you, I'd like you to just do me a favor. I'd like you to click on the subscribe button below. I have a team behind the camera, and one of the ways I can actually compensate them is by asking you to subscribe to our channel, because that shows that that's a sign of success for them. So please kindly follow us on Facebook at Casafina Development, on Instagram at Casafina Development, and then on YouTube at Casafina TV. Till I see you the next time, have a stress-free and wonderful weekdays ahead.